Hey everyone, welcome to Compassion Church. I'm Jenny and we are so glad that you're here with us this weekend. In just a moment, our worship team will lead us in a few songs and then one of our pastors will share a message from our current teaching series. But before we get today's service started, we want to let you know about a few things. If you're new to Compassion and you'd like for us to get to know you a little better, simply fill out the orange guest card and drop it in an offering bucket later in the service. We also have a white Next Steps card where you can sign up to get involved. Join us for a guest meal, sign up for baptism, or find your purpose serving on a team. And we are always here to seek God with you no matter what your need is. So leave a request on the gray prayer card and let us know what's going on in your life. Again, thank you guys so much for being here with us today. We believe the church isn't just a place to come to, but it's a family where you belong. So it doesn't matter who you are or where you've been, God loves you. He has great things planned for you, and you are welcome here at Compassion. Let us know if we can help in any way while you're here with us today. And be sure to connect with us at compassionchurch.cc and on social media so we can answer any questions that you may have and so you can stay up to date with everything happening here. We hope you guys have a great weekend.
God, I'm on my knees again. God, I'm begging, please again. I need you. Oh, I need you. Walking down these desert roads, water for my thirsty soul. I need you. Oh, I need you. Your forgiveness is like sweet, sweet honey on my lips. Like the sound of a symphony in my ears. It's like holy water on my skin. Tell me walking slave to sin. I wanna know about being born again. I need you. Oh God, I need you. So take me to the riverside. Take me under baptized. I need you. Oh God, I need you. Your forgiveness is like sweet, sweet honey on my lips. Like the sound of a symphony in my ears. It's like holy water on my skin. I don't wanna abuse your grace. God, I need it every day. It's the only thing that ever really makes me wanna change. I don't wanna abuse your grace. God, I need it every day. It's the only thing that ever really makes me wanna change. I don't wanna abuse your grace. God, I need it every day. It's the only thing that ever really makes me wanna change. I don't wanna abuse your grace. God, I need it every day. It's the only thing that ever really makes me wanna change. Your forgiveness is like sweet, sweet honey on my lips. Like the sound of a symphony in my ears. It's like holy water. Your forgiveness is like sweet, sweet honey on my lips. Like the sound of a symphony in my ears. worship you. I worship you. You are here, working in this place. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, moving in our midst. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, working in this place. I worship you. I worship you. You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Touching every heart. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, healing every life. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, turning lives around. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, mending every heart. I worship you. I worship you. You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you 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 Promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop
here moving in our midst. You are here working in this place. You are here touching every heart. You are here healing every life. You are here turning lives around. You are here mending every heart, because that is who you are. Oh God, that's who you are. You're a way maker. You're a miracle worker. You're a promise keeper, a light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Father, we come before you. Just let these words pour over us this morning. We know you're a miracle worker. Be with the people that needs to be healed this morning. And be with those that are struggling with depression and anxiety, and just place your healing hands on them and give guidance to them. As we see a light at the end of this tunnel, of this dark times that we're going through, we know you're working your miracles, and we have so much faith and grace in you. In your Son's name we pray. Amen. Welcome to Compassion Church. We're so grateful that you're worshiping with us this morning. Thank you.
Thank you for the thousands that are here today and the millions that are joining us online. Thank you for being here. We don't take it lightly that you're watching us online, and we want you to engage. We just don't want you to sit and watch. We want you to clap your hands on there, raise your hands. If you need prayer this morning, we want to pray for you. So we want you to engage, not only here in service, but also online. Last week, we started a message series called Mental Floss. And I wasn't 100% excited about this one, but the more I've studied this, the more I've engaged in this, the more I've learned, man, it has opened up my heart, my mind, and of learning so much. Because a lot of times, a lot of us are physically, I've been fighting the sinus infection, so we're physically sick, and we recover, and sometimes mental sickness, and sometimes we get stuck. We get stuck in that, and we don't know how to get out of that. And so that's really all this is just mental floss. If you go to the dentist and they say, hey, have you been flossing? You can lie all you want, but he can tell by the way your teeth looks. I mean, the dental floss gets way up in there, and it gets all that stuff out. And that's kind of what we're doing through mental floss. So last week we talked about disappointment. And here's just a few things that catch you up, just in case you wasn't here last week. Disappointment is the experience of sadness, involving unfulfilled hopes and unfulfilled expectations. And that's something right there I didn't realize. So when you consider what might have been, if you think a lot about the past and where you're at today, if you consider what might have been in contrast to what exists today in the present, you're probably going to experience disappointment. Man, I never thought I was going to look like this in my 20s or my 30s or my 40s or my 50s or whatever it is. Whatever it is, when you compare yourself today to your past, most of the time you're going to be disappointed because you see all the other paths that you could have took, but you decided to take this one that led you here today. If you grew up in Oklahoma, if you live in Oklahoma, or you've never been to Oklahoma, I'm going to share a story today. And in Oklahoma, we experience this phenomenon that a lot of people around the world will never experience. Now, they'll see it on the news, they'll hear about it, they'll read about it, but they never ever experience it. And if you tell people, hey, I live in Oklahoma, usually the very, very first thing that they say is, why do you live in Oklahoma where all the tornadoes are at? Why in the world do you do that? So, has anybody ever seen a tornado? Anybody ever here? Yeah, you have, and you have. Well, and if you have online, raise your hand. Woo, I've seen a tornado. You know, seeing a tornado and experiencing a tornado are two totally different things. A I'm pretty sure me and Tammy, it was probably about 96, 97, I drove through a rain-wrapped tornado in between Dibble and Purcell. I lost it. Tammy was pretty calm. I was freaking out. I pulled over the side of our back end of our truck. We drove a little truck, and the back end started to move, and it was just almost like a movie, man. It just started, I'm like freaking out. That wasn't nothing compared to the year that was getting ready to come. See, we lived in Chickasha on May 3rd, 1999. And that was one of the most intense days of my life. I remember almost every detail of that day, and I'm sitting at the tire shop getting new tires put on our minivan. I hate to say that I ever owned a minivan, but we owned a minivan. I was getting new tires put on it at that time. And I remember looking up at the TV they had in the corner, and Gary England was talking. And he just started talking about the storms that was popping up, and that these look different than he has ever seen before. And if you live in Oklahoma, everybody knows who Gary England was, and he is the expert when it comes to weather. I left there, grabbed my kids, we headed home, got Hannah and Carson at the time, and I looked up as we're walking to our house, and the sky is this weird, super bright turquoise color. And it was dead still. I mean, not a leaf was moving, this weird, eerie look. And when I went to the house and I turned back on the weather and turned it to the channel where Gary England was at, and he said something that I had never, ever heard him say before. And he had this desperate tone in his voice. And normally Gary England was very calming. That day he was very desperate. He said, if you are not underground, you will not survive this storm. So I had all these flashbacks to the hundreds, almost thousands of tornadoes that I had either seen in movies or I had seen on the news channel. All these images started coming back to me. And he said, you have to be in a cellar. We rented. There was no cellar. There was no cellar anywhere. So I was panicked and I was scared. I had never experienced that feeling in my life because now I have my two kids. Before, I might have been desperate and nervous and scared in certain situations, but now I have my two kids, and now I felt completely out of control. I turned up the volume really loud because the wind was getting up super, 80, 90 mile an hour winds. And I turned up the TV as loud as it could go so we could hear it. And Gary England said, now the tornado is a mile wide, and it is approaching the Chickasha Airport. Guess where we lived? A mile from the Chickasha Airport. So, yes, that added more intensity to my panic. So Gary has basically said two things to me. You've got to be underground, and it's a mile wide, or you're not going to survive. I've been trying to get a hold of Tammy. She's at work. Can't get a hold of her. I shoved my kids in a closet that every Oklahoman knows. You go to the smallest closet in the interior of the home, the hall closet. That's where we were at. And I put this mattress in front of us the best that I could. And I started to pray to God like I actually believed in Him. Not the God that I heard in Sunday school, not the God that I heard on the back row when I was a teenager, but the God that I needed that day in that closet. The tornado actually lifted, spared our home, but it brought back on the small town of Bruce Creek. Lots of people lost their lives that day. I don't ever think I was as desperate. And it was this feeling of almost hopelessness and not even know what to do, of being out of control than I ever was before that day had happened. Last week we talked about disappointment being the door. Disappointment sitting there knocking, and it's our choice to open it. And as soon as we do, here's what he does. He brings his buddies. We listed all of the buddies that he brings with us. But the first one that is going to show up, one of the biggest ones, big influence over the rest of them, the sadness, the anger, all the other ones, is desperation. Right after disappointment, desperation is going to show up. See, desperation is the feeling that a situation is so bad that no matter what you do, it's never going to get better. And that was the feeling that I had today. Man, you better be underground. It's a mile wide or you're not going to survive. Man, that situation, I didn't see any way out of it. It wasn't going to get better. See, no one deserves. We just put ourselves in these situations. No one deserves to feel lifeless, to feel worthless, to feel helpless, to just feel hopelessly sad, like there's nothing left for you. We especially don't deserve to feel like there's no help, like we're doing this all alone. Desperation puts hope. It grabs hope, puts it in a chokehold, and just tries to get him to tap out, tries to get hope out of the room. Desperation tries to convince you there's no hope. The hope was here because the situation was so bad, he's gone. That all hope is lost. And that he will try to convince you to make decisions that you never ever would have made before. Hope is threatened when people lose confidence that what they hope for now seems impossible. That fear, that desperation, whatever you want to label it, that day on May 3rd, and it changed my thinking so much. I would almost say it changed my perspective of what May 2nd was to now what May 4th was. Totally different perspective now about my life. Desperation, if you allow him to, will hold you hostage your whole life. There's a lot of desperate people in the Bible. We're going to talk about just a group of them. Lots of desperate people who went after God. The woman with the issue of blood. There's lots of people who just tore the roof out of the ceiling to let their friends down. Lots of people that are desperate. But I picked a group of people that it was their choice. And I love this story. It was their choice to be there. Matthew chapter 8, verse 23 says, Jesus' disciples went with him as he left in the boat. I'm going to talk about that here in just a minute. See, it was their choice to get on the boat and go with him. And in verse 24, suddenly a severe storm came across the sea. When I'm reading this, I hear Gary England's voice because now the storms were popping up, and it wasn't expected that day. It wasn't like we have weather apps today at all. You had to watch the weather. You had to look at the sky and see what was going on. The waves were covering the boat, yet Jesus was sleeping. One version said that I was reading, it says he was asleep with his head on a pillow. I mean, he just relaxed. He's having a good nap. Jesus was sound asleep. See, he never opened up the door to disappointment. So desperation was never allowed to come in at all in Jesus' life. I don't know about you, but sometimes I have trouble sleeping. Anybody else have trouble sleeping at night? I mean, you can't shut off your brain. Yeah, you, yep. Online, raise your hand. Sometimes it's just hard to go to sleep. It's hard to shut off your brain. See, I could name all kinds of things this morning. I don't think anybody in here is greedy. I don't think anybody here has just got bad intentions toward anybody else. But sometimes the storm of life is so bad that we just become afraid, that we just become desperate, and we feel like hope is lost. That verse I just read, I looked it up back in 2,000 years ago, and they think that on May 3rd is when that story I'm reading, when the disciples got on the boat, that's when that happened, was on May 3rd, 2,000 years ago. Okay, not really, not at all. But this storm, just like Gary England said, it's not a regular storm. It's not, because, see, these men were seasoned fishermen. They have seen storms their whole life. They've been in the middle of some very bad storms. If you're in Oklahoma, man, you just sit on the front porch and watch them. That's what my family does. We get a blanket, it rains, it hails, it's coming in, we just sit and watch it. We're seasoned storm watchers. But this one was different. When I'm reading this, I picture 10, 15 water spouts surrounding their boats, large waves and wind blowing so hard that they are just feeling this panic. They're feeling this desperation. Remember what I just said. Desperation makes us feel so desperate that we feel like there's no hope. There's no help. That we're all alone. So Matthew chapter 8, verse 25. So they woke him up. Again, I think they almost fought over who was going to do it. I think they're like, hey, you do it. No, Bartholomew, you do it. You're pretty big. I think of Bartholomew almost like a WWE wrestler. I mean, just a big guy. Nope, not going to do it. And finally, Peter just pushes everybody to the side and says, hey, you pansies, I'll do it. And he says, then Jesus said, they said, Lord, save us. We're going to die. Jesus said to them, why do you cowards? I picked this verse because of this. Why do you cowards have so little faith? Then he got up, gave an order. He commanded the wind and the sea became calm, became as glass, became smooth. Not one ripple on the water. And here's what I love about this. Here's what I said at the beginning. These guys, they're the ones who got up and followed. It said they followed him into the boat, not knowing exactly what was going to happen. We don't know exactly what's going to happen. And I thought 2020 was going to be this amazing, car-flying, futuristic thing. Never knew that COVID and murder, hornets, and everything else was going to come. It's been crazy. But they actually got up and got in the boat. They're the guys that would ask, hey, come and follow me. Hey, come and get in the boat. Go with me. Because here's my thoughts. How many people would never dare to get in the boat in the first place? How many people would just sit and watch as it sailed away? How many people sit and criticize rather than getting on the boat? If you forget everything else, that what I'm getting ready to tell you, remember this. Don't wake Jesus up from a nap, okay? Jesus is cranky when you wake him up from a nap, okay? And then in verse 27, the men were amazed. They were amazed. And they asked, they looked at each other in amazement. What kind of man is this, that even the wind and the seas obey him? Jesus asked them a question. Why are you so afraid? Don't you know who I am? Why are you so desperate? You see me do all these other wonderful things. See, what Jesus did that day with that storm is he changed their perspective about life and about being desperate and that feeling of being afraid. That's going to come. But now they know. Now they know when the worst of the worst storm, they know what to do. See, desperation will hold you hostage. They asked, who is this guy? Who is he? And we thought we knew who he was. We've seen him do some things. But who is he that the winds and the sea even obey him? That's what I'm asking you. Let Jesus change your perspective. Because yes, the storm is bad, and yes, you're struggling in your mind, and yes, you've let desperation in, and hope's going out the back door. You feel like you're losing all hope. But maybe the storm you're going through, God is going to use so you can start calling on him again. Or maybe even for the first time. God did not cause the storm, but God will use the storm. That day, in that closet, on May 3rd in Chickasha, Oklahoma, holding my kids, I really felt like there was no hope. I mean, I could feel that knot in the pit of my stomach. I could feel my shortness of breath. I could feel like all hope is gone when I hear Gary England from the other room say as loud as he could, "You have to be underground." I felt so desperate. I felt alone. But that day, my perspective changed. Don't let desperation cause you to make decisions that you never, ever would have made. Don't give up on your life. Don't give up on the people around you. There is hope. I promise you, you are not alone. We would love to pray for you. We'd love to pray for you online. We want to pray for you here. Don't become so desperate that hope walks out the door. Jesus is our hope. He's the one who calms the storms. He causes the wind to cease, and the seas will obey him. Let's pray. Father, we love you and we thank you so much for today. No matter what's going on, this world just seems so chaotic. The storm seems so strong, and no matter if all hell is breaking loose, we can remain calm. Don't worry. Maybe you're struggling about your past and you see no hope for your future. That's what keeps you up at night. You just replay the past, replay all the stuff that's happened, and you see no hope for tomorrow. Let Jesus change your perspective this morning. Maybe the storm you're going through, God is using, so you will call out to him again. Desperation is a feeling that a situation is so bad that no matter what you do, it is never going to get better. Jesus is the calmer of the storms of your life. Don't give up hope. If you've never accepted him as your Lord and Savior, maybe you come here that you've never really fully understood, but you're going through something. Maybe you've never made him as your Lord and Savior, the calmer of your storms. I want to pray for you this morning. The Bible says all we have to do is confess with our mouth and believe in our heart that Jesus Christ is Lord, and you shall be saved. And I say this over and over until I feel like I don't need to say it anymore. I said it last week, I said it the week before. The thief on the cross just looked over at him and said, "Remember me as you enter into your kingdom." And Jesus looked back and said, "Today you'll be with me in paradise." See, the 12 disciples just got on the boat. They just followed him. So all you had to do is believe. They believed in him, but now when they got to the other side, they believed in him in a totally different way than they ever have before. Who is this man? Who is he? I want to ask you the same question. Who is he in your life? Who is he in your desperation? Who is he when hope feels like he's walking out the door? If you're struggling today, I don't want to call it mental illness, but you're just stuck. You're just desperate. You're desperate in your marriage. You're desperate in your finances. You just don't even know what to do anymore. I want you to lift your hands. I want to pray for you. Throughout the week, online, you can say, "Pray for me." We'll write you down and we will pray for you. Father, thank you for today. Thank you that you're the calmer of the storms. The storms are coming. You're in the boat with us, and we trust you. God, we love you. We thank you so much for today. In Jesus' holy, precious name, amen.
So me and Dewey are both recovering addicts. Dewey was incarcerated, and that's where he found the Lord. And we reconciled our marriage. And when we got back together, I told him that I was a tither, that, I gave 10% of everything that I made to the church.
And I was not. The way that I was brought up, that was not something that we did. Church was a bunch of hypocrites. You know, people that got together and gossiped about other people and looked down on people like me. Then I went to Compassion and I was like, you know what? I kind of like this place. Here I am, tattooed, wearing a motorcycle club shirt that says, support your local motorcycle club by keeping your mouth shut. And they're asking me to take up the offer. Come up here and pray and take the offer. And I was like, yes, this is my kind of church.
And so during God's Guarantee last year, the Lord actually spoke to Dewey and told him to give actually above the 10%. And at first I was actually kind of nervous about the amount. We live paycheck to paycheck, like most people do. But the fact that the Lord had spoken to him, it was something that we both decided that we were going to do.
And money was a big part of my addiction also. So for him to talk to me about money was a huge thing.
And it hasn't always been easy, but God has just rewarded us and supplied for us.
He's gave me everything that I could possibly want. I started my own company. The electrical company that I work for bought me a new truck, brand new truck, as soon as my truck broke down. I can't explain, like there's so much more. I never really want for anything.
And we're always faithful to tithe at the very beginning. So even if, say, we're $100 short that week, we'll always tithe first. And somehow by the end of the week, what we needed is figured out. And as we learn to trust in God on our finances, which is something that's so big in people's lives, it makes trusting each other and trusting God for everything else that much easier.
Faith of a mustard seed. You know, that little bitty much. 10% is just that little bitty much. Just go with it. Just do it.
$90 days.
90 days.
Try it for 90 days.
And then
do a year.
Do a lifetime.
Yeah.
their children, and their children, and their children. May his favor be upon